I'm Violet, and I'm 28 years old. 5 minutes ago, I was handcuffed in front of a dozen news cameras while my mother told reporters that criminals don't deserve inheritance. 3 minutes ago, my father called me a disappointment to anyone within microphone range. Right now, I'm sitting in the back of a police car, watching my parents give interviews about my inevitable downfall. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you most. You'll definitely want to stick around for what happened next. The charges are fraud, embezzlement, and abuse of corporate power. According to the federal agents who just arrested me, I've been systematically stealing from Sterling Industries, my grandfather's company, the company I was supposed to inherit the largest share of when he died 3 months ago. My hands are zip-tied behind my back, and I can hear my mother's voice carrying across the parking lot of my downtown office building. "We knew this day would come," she's saying to Channel 7 News. "Violet has always been reckless with money. When my father-in-law left her those shares, we tried to warn him, but he wouldn't listen. That's rich. Coming from a woman who spent $30,000 on a handbag last month. But I'll get to that later. The evidence against me is supposedly overwhelming. Bank transfers, forged documents, digital signatures authorizing payments to shell companies I've never heard of. The FBI agent sitting next to me keeps glancing back like I might spontaneously confess. But honestly, I'm too busy trying not to laugh at the absurdity of it all. See, here's what nobody knows yet. Except maybe Arthur, my grandfather's longtime lawyer, who's probably the only person on Earth who understands how our family really works. My parents didn't just want my inheritance, they needed it. Desperately. And when legitimate methods failed, they got creative. But there's something they don't know about Arthur. Something they definitely don't know about the security systems grandfather installed in the company building before he died. And something they really don't know about how thoroughly he documented every single person who had access to the corporate accounts. As we pull away from the building, I catch a glimpse of my parents in the rearview mirror, still performing for the cameras. They look relieved, vindicated. Like justice has finally been served. They have no idea what's coming. Federal detention isn't exactly the Ritz, but it's not as terrible as the movies make it look either. Orange isn't my color. I look better in blues and greens, but the jumpsuit fits, and I have to admit there's something liberating about not having to choose an outfit that says, responsible corporate heiress every morning. My cellmate is a woman named Carmen who got caught running a sophisticated credit card scam. She's actually pretty brilliant, and we've been trading stories about white-collar crime all morning. Well, she's been telling me about actual crimes she committed. I've been telling her about the crimes I supposedly committed. "So your own parents set you up?" Carmen asks, sitting cross-legged on her narrow bunk. "That's cold, even for family. Trust me, I'm as surprised as you are. I always knew they resented grandfather's will, but I figured they'd try to challenge it legally, not frame me for federal crimes. Let me back up and explain how we got here, because this story starts with my grandfather's death and a will reading that shocked everyone, including me. 3 months ago, Grandfather Sterling passed away at 89. He'd been sick for months, but he was lucid until the end, sharp as ever. The family gathered for the will reading, expecting the predictable outcome. Dad would inherit the company, Mom would get the house in the Hamptons, and I'd maybe get a trust fund and some sentimental jewelry. Instead, I inherited 60% of Sterling Industries' voting shares. Dad got 20%. Mom got 10%. Various cousins and aunts split the remaining 10%. But the real kicker? I wasn't just the majority shareholder. The will specifically stated that all major corporate decisions had to go through me. You should have seen my parents' faces. Dad went pale, then red, then a color that doesn't exist in nature. Mom just stared at the lawyer like he'd told her the earth was flat. The silence in that mahogany-paneled office was deafening. "There must be a mistake," Dad finally said. "Violet is 28 years old. She has no experience running a company." Arthur, grandfather's lawyer for 40 years, adjusted his glasses and smiled that patient smile he perfected dealing with difficult family members. Mr. Sterling was very specific about his wishes. He felt Violet demonstrated the vision and ethical standards necessary to lead the company into the future. That's when Mom found her voice. "This is ridiculous. A girl her age can't possibly understand the complexities of a business this size." A girl her age. I have an MBA from Wharton and had been working in the company's strategic planning department for 3 years, but sure, I was just a girl. The thing is, Grandfather and I had been close. Really close. While Dad was playing golf and Mom was redecorating their house for the 4th time, I spent weekends with Grandfather talking about the company, about business philosophy, about what Sterling Industries could become. He saw something in me that my parents never bothered to look for. But sitting here in this detention cell, I'm starting to understand that inheriting the company wasn't just about Grandfather's faith in me. It was about his lack of faith in his own son. Carmen interrupts my thoughts. So what's your next move? You got a lawyer? Arthur is handling it. If anyone can untangle this mess, it's him. What I don't tell Carmen is that Arthur isn't just handling it. He's probably already 3 steps ahead of whatever scheme my parents cooked up. Grandfather always said Arthur had the best legal mind he'd ever encountered. More importantly, Arthur loved Grandfather like a father and would do anything to protect his legacy, including protecting me. The guard announces evening recreation time, but I stay in my cell. I need to think. My parents had access to the company building, knowledge of the systems, and 3 months to plan this. But they also made one crucial mistake. They assumed I'd be too shocked and overwhelmed to fight back effectively. They assumed Arthur would abandon me to save his own reputation. And they definitely assumed that Grandfather hadn't prepared for exactly this kind of betrayal. Tomorrow is day 3 of my 5-day nightmare. But I'm starting to suspect it might also be the beginning of theirs. Day 5 in federal detention. And I'm oddly calm. Carmen noticed it too. Most people get more nervous as they get closer to trial, she says, watching me fold my regulation blanket with unnecessary precision. You're acting like someone who knows something good is about to happen. Maybe I am, I tell her. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I actually smile. My parents visited yesterday, their first and only visit. They sat across from me in the sterile visiting room, trying to look concerned for any guards who might be watching, but I could see the satisfaction in their eyes. Finally, they had what they wanted. The company was theirs. My shares were frozen pending the criminal investigation, and I was safely tucked away where I couldn't interfere. We're so sorry this happened, Mom said, loud enough for the guard to hear. We tried to guide you, but you wouldn't listen. Dad leaned forward, dropping his voice. If you cooperate, maybe we can work out some kind of plea deal. Reduced sentence, a little money when you get out. The audacity was breathtaking. They were offering me a consolation prize for letting them steal my inheritance. I appreciate the offer, I said, matching his quiet tone, but I think I'll wait to see what Arthur discovers in his investigation. That's when their masks slipped. Just for a second, but long enough for me to see the fear underneath. They knew Arthur was looking into the charges. They just assumed he wouldn't find anything that could help me. Poor, naive parents. They had no idea what Arthur was capable of when properly motivated. This morning, my lawyer, a public defender named Martinez who clearly drew the short straw when my case was assigned, came to tell me about Arthur's findings. I've never seen a public defender look so confused and excited at the same time. I don't understand how this happened so fast, Martinez said, spreading documents across the metal table between us. Usually it takes weeks to get this kind of digital forensic analysis. Arthur had called in every favor from his 40-year legal career. The preliminary findings were interesting. The supposed evidence against me had several problems. Digital signatures made from IP addresses I'd never accessed. Bank transfers authorized during times when security cameras showed I was in meetings on the other side of the building. Email communications sent from devices that weren't linked to any of my accounts. But the most damaging evidence for my parents? The investigation had uncovered a pattern of suspicious activity that predated my supposed crimes by months. Someone had been testing the corporate security systems, making small, unauthorized transfers, and practicing the exact techniques used in the larger fraud. Someone with legitimate access to the building, someone who knew the systems intimately, someone who had a key and an access code. Your grandfather's lawyer wants to meet with federal prosecutors this afternoon, Martinez continued. Apparently, he has security footage that's going to change the entire narrative of the case. I bet he does. Grandfather was paranoid about corporate security, especially after a competitor tried to steal proprietary information 5 years ago. He installed cameras everywhere, hallways, offices, parking garages, even the executive bathroom, which I discovered the hard way. If my parents spent months planning this frame job, every step was probably recorded. Carmen looks up from her book when I start laughing. Not bitter, angry laughter, but genuine amusement. Good news? She asks. The best, I tell her. My parents are about to discover that Grandfather Sterling didn't build a company empire by trusting people. He built it by documenting everything. Tonight is my last night in here. I can feel it. Tomorrow the story changes completely. And my parents? They have no idea what's about to hit them. At 6:47 a.m., the guard unlocks my cell and tells me to pack my things. You're being released pending further investigation, he says, like this kind of thing happens all the time. Carmen gives me a hug goodbye. Go get them, she whispers, and I promise to send her a postcard from my new corner office. Arthur is waiting in the lobby when I'm processed out, and the smile on his 68-year-old face tells me everything I need to know. He hands me a fresh suit, navy blue, perfectly tailored, the kind of outfit you wear when you're about to destroy your enemies in public. How bad is it for them? I ask as we walk toward his car. Catastrophic, he says, and actually chuckles. Your grandfather would be so proud. The drive to the federal building takes 20 minutes, but Arthur fills me in on everything during those 20 minutes. The evidence against me didn't just collapse, it imploded. The digital forensics team found a trail of breadcrumbs leading straight back to my parents, who apparently watched too many spy movies and not enough documentaries about how digital fingerprints actually work. They used your father's home computer to practice accessing the corporate accounts, Arthur explains. Then your mother's laptop to actually execute the transfers. They even used their own phones to photograph confidential documents they planned to use as evidence. I have to admire the thoroughness of their stupidity. What about the shell companies the money was transferred to? Registered to a business address that your father has been renting for 6 months. He paid for it with a check from his personal account. Arthur parks in front of the federal building where just 5 days ago I was arrested in front of news cameras. Today there are twice as many cameras, but they're here for a very different story. Are you ready for this? Arthur asks. Once we go in there, this becomes a very public scandal. I check my appearance in the passenger mirror. The woman looking back at me has changed in the past 5 days. There's something harder in her eyes, something more focused, something that looks an awful lot like her grandfather. I've been ready for this my whole life, I tell him. I just didn't know it until now. The press conference happens in the same building where I was booked 5 days ago, but this time I'm standing behind the microphone instead of being dragged past it in handcuffs. The FBI agent who arrested me is now explaining how the investigation has taken a significant turn based on new evidence. I don't say much during the official announcement. I let Arthur handle the legal details, and the federal prosecutors explain how the evidence points to other parties with access to the victim's corporate accounts. But when the reporters start shouting questions, I step forward. I want to be clear about something, I say, looking directly into the Channel 7 news camera. This wasn't just fraud. This was an orchestrated attempt to steal a company my grandfather built over 60 years. An attempt by people who valued money more than family, more than ethics, more than the truth. A reporter shouts, "Are you referring to your own parents?" I'm referring to people who thought they could destroy me to get what they wanted. People who assumed I was too weak or too naive to fight back. I pause, thinking about my parents watching this unfold on television. They were wrong. Arthur touches my elbow, our signal that it's time to go. But as we walk away from the microphones, I hear my phone buzzing with notifications. Texts, voicemails, missed calls. The first text is from Dad. "We need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding." The second is from Mom. "Please don't do anything rash. We're still family." I show Arthur the messages and he shakes his head. They still don't understand the situation they're in. As we drive away from the federal building, Arthur hands me a thick folder. "Your grandfather left specific instructions about what to do if family members ever tried to betray the company. He never thought it would be his own son, but he prepared for every possibility." I open the folder and see documents that make my morning press conference look like a gentle warm-up. Contracts, bylaws, financial records, and a letter in my grandfather's handwriting that starts with, "If you're reading this, then someone has tried to destroy everything I built, and they've made the mistake of targeting you instead of me." "Arthur," I say, scanning the contents, "my parents have no idea what they've started. Do they?" "None whatsoever," he replies. "And by the time they figure it out, it'll be far too late. The real battle is just beginning." My parents are waiting in my apartment parking lot when Arthur drops me off. They're sitting in Dad's Mercedes, probably arguing about whose fault this is and how to minimize the damage. I almost feel sorry for them. Almost. Arthur offers to stay, but I shake my head. This is something I need to handle alone. They climb out of the car as I approach, and I'm struck by how much older they both look. 5 days ago, they were confident, righteous, convinced they were finally getting what they deserved. Today, they look like people who just realized they've been playing poker with someone who could see their cards. "Violet, sweetheart," Mom starts, reaching for me like we're having a normal family reunion. I step back. "Don't." Dad tries his executive voice, the one he uses in board meetings when he needs to take control. "We need to discuss this situation like adults. There's been a terrible misunderstanding." A misunderstanding? I pull out my phone and play the voicemail Dad left yesterday while I was still in detention. His voice fills the quiet parking lot. "Violet, you need to accept reality. Take the plea deal. Serve your time, and we'll make sure you're taken care of when you get out. Fighting this will only make things worse for everyone." I stop the recording. That doesn't sound like someone who thinks there's been a misunderstanding. That sounds like someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Mom's composure cracks. "We were trying to protect the company. You're not ready for this kind of responsibility. When your grandfather left you those shares, we knew it would end in disaster. So you decided to frame me for federal crimes instead of having an honest conversation? We didn't frame you for anything, Dad snaps, then catches himself. The evidence speaks for itself. I almost laugh. They're still trying to gaslight me, even now. The evidence? You mean the digital signatures made from your home computer? The shell companies registered to an address you've been renting for months? The security footage showing you photographing confidential documents in grandfather's office? The color drains from Mom's face. How did you… Arthur is very thorough, and grandfather was very paranoid. Every digital interaction with the company systems is logged, time-stamped, and backed up to servers you didn't even know existed. Dad recovers first, switching to damage control mode. Look, maybe we made some mistakes in how we handled this, but we can work together to resolve it. Family should stick together. Family. I repeat the word like I'm tasting something bitter. When I was arrested, what did you tell the reporters? Silence. You said criminals don't deserve inheritance. You called me a disappointment. You performed grief and disappointment for the cameras while I was being handcuffed. My voice stays steady, but there's steel underneath it now. That's not how family behaves. Mom tries one more time. We can fix this. Arthur can make this go away, and we can all move forward. The company needs leadership, and you need guidance. The company has leadership. Me. And you're right that this can all go away. Your involvement in the company, your access to corporate accounts, your seats on the board of directors, all of it. Dad's executive mask finally slips. You can't do that. We have contracts, agreements, family protections built into the corporate structure. I pull out the folder Arthur gave me earlier. Actually, grandfather anticipated this exact scenario. Did you know he included a betrayal clause in all family member agreements? Any attempt to defraud, undermine, or illegally acquire shares results in immediate forfeiture of all corporate involvement. The document I show them is signed by grandfather, notarized, and filed with the corporate attorneys 2 years ago. It's ironclad. This is ridiculous, Dad says, but his voice wavers. You can't destroy your own family over a business disagreement. I'm not destroying anything. You destroyed it when you decided to have me arrested rather than respect grandfather's wishes. I close the folder. The betrayal clause goes into effect immediately. You have 24 hours to remove your personal belongings from the Sterling Industries building. Arthur will escort you. As I walk toward my apartment building, Mom calls after me. Violet, please. We made mistakes, but we're still your parents. I turn back one last time. No. You're people who happened to give birth to me. Parents protect their children. They don't sacrifice them for money. Upstairs in my apartment, I pour myself a glass of wine and sit by the window overlooking the city. My phone is buzzing constantly. Reporters, relatives, business contacts who heard about this morning's press conference, but I ignore them all. Tomorrow, I'll start the process of actually taking control of Sterling Industries. Tonight, I just want to sit here and process the fact that my parents tried to destroy me and I survived it. More than survived it. I won. The Sterling Industries board meeting is scheduled for 2 p.m., but I arrive at the building at noon. I want time to walk through the offices, see the company with new eyes, and prepare for what's about to be the most important meeting of my life. Arthur meets me in the lobby with a security escort, not because I need protection, but because we're about to remove my parents from the building permanently. They've been stripped of their corporate access cards, but we're not taking any chances. How are you feeling? Arthur asks as we ride the elevator to the executive floor. Like I'm about to give the performance of my lifetime, I tell him. Grandfather always said the company would reveal who people really are under pressure. I guess today we all find out who I really am. The board consists of 7 members, 3 family members, including my parents, 2 external business leaders, Arthur and me. With my parents' removal under the betrayal clause, we're down to 5. But 5 is enough for what needs to happen today. I've spent the morning reviewing financial reports, strategic plans, and personnel files. Sterling Industries is profitable but stagnant. Dad's been running it like a trust fund instead of a growth company. Conservative investments, minimal innovation, dividend payouts instead of reinvestment. It's exactly what you'd expect from someone who inherited power instead of earning it. My parents arrive at 1:45 with their own lawyer, a nervous-looking man who clearly wishes he was anywhere else. They try to enter the boardroom like nothing has changed, but Arthur intercepts them. I'm sorry, but you're no longer authorized to attend board meetings, he says politely. You can wait in the lobby while we discuss your employment status. Dad's face turns that familiar shade of red. This is my father's company. I've been on this board for 15 years. And now your tenure is over, I say, stepping out of the boardroom. The betrayal clause was very specific about consequences for attempting to defraud family shareholders. The other board members watch this confrontation with fascination. Margaret Chen, our external marketing expert, actually looks impressed. I have to say, Violet, your grandfather would appreciate the irony. He always said business reveals character. Mom makes one last desperate play. The other board members will never support this coup. Tell them, Margaret. Tell them this isn't how Sterling Industries operates. Margaret exchanges glances with David Morrison, our other external member, then looks directly at my mother. Actually, Linda, we've been reviewing the financial forensics Arthur provided. Attempting to frame your own daughter for crimes you committed isn't how any legitimate business operates. The security escort appears, led by James, our head of building security who worked with my grandfather for 20 years. Dad tries to argue, but James interrupts. Mr. Sterling, you need to leave the building. Your corporate access has been revoked. As they're walked toward the elevator, Mom turns back one more time. This isn't over, Violet. Family doesn't just disappear because you have a legal document. You're right, I tell her. But employees do disappear when they commit fraud against their employer. The elevator doors close, and they're gone. The board meeting that follows is unlike anything Sterling Industries has seen in decades. Instead of reviewing quarterly reports and rubber-stamping Dad's conservative agenda, we discuss innovation, expansion, strategic partnerships, and long-term growth. I want to triple our R&D budget, I announce, presenting the strategic plan I've been developing since grandfather's death. We've been coasting on patents from the 1990s, while our competitors develop next-generation technology. David Morrison leans forward. That's ambitious. What's your timeline? 18 months to launch 3 new product lines. 5 years to become the industry leader in sustainable manufacturing technology. Margaret smiles. Your grandfather had that same fire when he started this company. I think he chose his successor wisely. Arthur presents the final piece of paperwork. My official appointment as CEO of Sterling Industries, effective immediately. The vote is unanimous. As the meeting concludes, Margaret approaches me. You know this won't be easy. Your parents will likely challenge everything through the courts. Let them, I say, looking out the boardroom window at the city where my grandfather built his empire. They had their chance to run this company with honor. Now it's my turn. That evening I sit in what used to be Dad's office, now my office, reviewing the personnel files of 847 Sterling Industries employees. These people trusted my parents to lead responsibly. They deserved better than conservative mediocrity and financial games. Tomorrow, I start the real work of transforming this company. But tonight, I allow myself one moment of satisfaction. My parents thought they could eliminate me and steal everything grandfather built. Instead, they handed me the keys to an empire. Have you ever experienced a moment when everything you thought you knew about your family turned out to be wrong? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. 3 weeks into my tenure as CEO of Sterling Industries, and I'm starting to understand why my parents were so desperate to keep control. The company wasn't just stagnating under Dad's leadership. It was hemorrhaging money in ways that would make a forensic accountant weep. I'm sitting in my new corner office at 7 a.m., reviewing financial records that Arthur tactfully described as concerning. Apparently, while I was building my career and respecting family hierarchy, Dad was treating Sterling Industries like his personal piggy bank. Unauthorized bonuses, inflated expense accounts, and consulting fees paid to companies that don't seem to actually exist. Mom wasn't innocent either. The company has been paying for her interior design consultation services for 5 years, services that consisted entirely of redecorating her own house and calling it a corporate wellness initiative. My assistant, Janet, knocks and enters with coffee and the morning's crisis du jour. The Hartford account wants to schedule a meeting, she says. They're concerned about the recent publicity. The Hartford account represents 30% of our revenue. Losing them would be catastrophic. Set it up for this afternoon, I tell her. And Janet, get me a complete list of every contract, vendor agreement, and financial commitment my parents entered into over the past 2 years. Already done, she says, sliding a thick folder across my desk. I've been waiting 3 years for someone to ask for this information. Janet has been with Sterling Industries for 15 years. She knows where every financial body is buried, and apparently she's been documenting everything with the patience of someone who knew this day would come. The Hartford meeting goes better than expected. Richard Hartford, a silver-haired man who built his own empire from nothing, sits across from me in our conference room and cuts straight to the point. I knew your grandfather well, he says. He was a man of integrity. Your father is not. The question is, which one are you? I slide him a presentation I've prepared, not just financial projections, but a complete strategic overhaul of how Sterling Industries will operate under my leadership. Transparent accounting, ethical business practices, innovation-focused growth. I'm my grandfather's granddaughter, I tell him, but I'm also someone who learned from watching what happens when a company loses its moral center. By the end of the meeting, Hartford has not only committed to maintaining his contract, but has agreed to increase orders by 20% over the next 2 years. As he's leaving, he pauses at the door. Your parents tried to contact me last week, suggested I might want to reconsider doing business with Sterling Industries under new leadership. He smiles. I told them I was more concerned about doing business with a company under old leadership. That afternoon, Arthur arrives with news that makes Hartford's endorsement look like a warm-up act. The federal prosecutors have officially filed charges against my parents, not just for the fraud against me, but for a pattern of corporate malfeasance going back years. They'll be arrested tomorrow morning, Arthur tells me. The FBI wants to coordinate with our internal investigation to make sure they get everything. I should feel vindicated, triumphant even. Instead, I feel something more complicated, a mixture of justice and sadness that it came to this. Arthur, I say, what do you think happens next? Do they accept responsibility, or do they keep fighting? Your parents? Arthur chuckles, but there's no humor in it. They'll fight until the very end. People who frame their own daughter for federal crimes don't suddenly develop self-awareness. He's probably right. But as I look out at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk, I can't help wondering, what do you think will happen next? Will my parents finally understand the consequences of their actions, or will they find new ways to surprise me with their capacity for destruction? The news trucks are back, but this time they're not here for me. I watch from my office window as federal agents escort my parents out of our family home in handcuffs. The irony isn't lost on me. Exactly 4 weeks after my arrest, they're experiencing the same humiliation they orchestrated for me. Except this time, there's no one standing by the cameras calling the arrestees disappointments. Their few remaining friends have distanced themselves since the charges were announced. Even Uncle Robert, Dad's brother, who never missed a chance to brown-nose his way into family business discussions, is suddenly unavailable for comment. My phone buzzes with a text from my cousin Michelle. Saw the news? Are you okay? It's the first contact I've had from extended family since this whole mess started. I text back, better than okay. I'm free. The federal investigation revealed something that actually shocked me. And trust me, after everything my parents have done, I thought I was unshockable. They didn't just frame me for fraud. They'd been systematically stealing from Sterling Industries for 3 years. Skimming from vendor payments, inflating contracts, even selling proprietary information to competitors. Arthur briefs me on the full extent of the damage. Your parents have caused approximately $2.3 million in losses to the company, he says, spreading financial documents across my desk. We can recover most of it through asset seizure and insurance claims, but it's going to take time. What about criminal liability? How long are they looking at? With their cooperation, maybe 5 years. Without it, Arthur shrugs. Federal judges don't appreciate attempted family destruction as a business strategy. That afternoon, I make a decision that surprises even me. I call their lawyer. I want to meet with my parents, I tell him. One last conversation before this goes to trial. I'm not sure that's advisable, he says. Anything you say could potentially be used in proceedings. I don't plan to say anything incriminating. I just want them to understand exactly what they've lost. The meeting happens in the federal building's conference room, the same place where I was processed out just weeks ago. My parents look smaller than I remember. Prison jumpsuits have a way of stripping away pretense, revealing people as they really are underneath the expensive clothes and entitled attitudes. Dad tries his executive voice one more time. Violet, we can still work this out. Family loyalty means something. Family loyalty. I repeat the words slowly. Is that what you call framing me for federal crimes? Is that what you call stealing from grandfather's company? Mom has been crying, her makeup smeared and her perfectly styled hair disheveled. We never meant for it to go this far. We just wanted what was rightfully ours. What was rightfully yours. I pull out a copy of grandfather's will, the same document that started this whole nightmare. Grandfather left you 20% of the company, Dad. And you, Mom, got 10%. Plus the house in the Hamptons, the art collection, and a trust fund worth $3 million. I spread the pages across the table between us. You had everything. Financial security, social status, a legacy to be proud of. All you had to do was let me run the company grandfather wanted me to run. You were too young, Dad insists. Too inexperienced. I was young and inexperienced. So your solution was to have me arrested for crimes you committed? I lean back in my chair. Do you see the flaw in that logic? The silence stretches for almost a minute. Finally, Mom speaks, her voice barely a whisper. What do you want us to do? I want you to plead guilty. Take responsibility for what you've done. Stop destroying what's left of our family name with a prolonged legal battle you cannot win. Dad's lawyer shifts uncomfortable. My clients haven't decided on their plea strategy yet. Then let me help them decide, I say, pulling out another folder. This contains financial records showing the full extent of your theft from Sterling Industries. Arthur's investigation was very thorough. If you plead guilty, the company will not pursue additional civil litigation. If you fight this, we'll sue for every penny you've stolen, plus punitive damages, plus legal fees. I stand up, gathering my papers. You have 48 hours to decide. After that, the offer expires, and we proceed with full prosecution. As I reach the door, Dad calls after me. Violet, we're still your parents. That has to count for something. I turn back one last time. You're people who gave birth to me, but parents protect their children, guide them, support their growth. You tried to destroy me for money. Whatever we were, it ended the day you had me arrested. Walking out of that conference room, I feel something I haven't experienced in months. Complete clarity. My parents made their choice when they decided money was more important than family. Now they have to live with the consequences. But part of me wonders if they'll ever truly understand what they've lost. Not just the money or the company, but the daughter who once would have done anything for their approval. The call comes at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Dad's lawyer sounding exhausted and defeated. My clients would like to accept your plea agreement. I'm not surprised. Arthur's investigation uncovered evidence that would have buried them in federal prison for decades. Taking the deal means 5 years instead of 25. Restitution instead of complete financial ruin. I'll have Arthur draw up the paperwork, I tell him. What I don't tell him is that I spent most of last night staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd become the kind of person who destroys family members without a second thought. Then I remembered sitting in that detention cell, listening to my parents tell reporters I was a disappointment, and the wondering stopped. The plea hearing happens on a Thursday. I attend, sitting in the gallery behind the prosecutor's table, watching my parents formally admit to conspiracy, fraud, and embezzlement. When the judge asks if they understand the consequences of their plea, Dad's voice breaks as he says, "Yes, Your Honor." Mom can't even speak. She just nods, tears streaming down her face. Outside the courthouse, I'm approached by a reporter from the Wall Street Journal. How does it feel to watch your parents go to prison? It feels like justice, I tell her. But it also feels like the end of something that should have been beautiful. Back at Sterling Industries, the mood is cautiously optimistic. The Hartford contract expansion has led to 3 more major deals. Our stock price has recovered, and then some. The board is talking about expansion, innovation, the kind of growth grandfather always dreamed about. But the real transformation is in the company culture. I've instituted weekly all-hands meetings, transparent financial reporting, and an employee suggestion program that's already generated 2 patent-worthy innovations. People who've worked here for years are telling me it feels like a completely different place. Janet approaches me that afternoon with a folder I haven't seen before. "I found this in your grandfather's personal safe," she says. "The locksmith said it was programmed to open only after both your parents were no longer officers of the company." Inside the folder is a letter in my grandfather's handwriting, dated just weeks before his death. "Violet, if you're reading this, then my worst fears about your parents have come true. I hoped they would accept my decision about the will and support your leadership. I feared they would see it as a threat to their own status and comfort. I chose you not because you're perfect, but because you have something your father never developed. The ability to put principle before profit, integrity before convenience. Sterling Industries needs a leader who understands that a company's true value isn't measured in quarterly reports, but in the lives it improves and the legacy it leaves. Don't let their betrayal make you bitter. Use it to become stronger, wiser, more committed to doing what's right even when it's difficult. The company needs you. The employees need you. The future needs you. Make me proud. Grandfather." I read the letter twice, then fold it carefully and place it in my desk drawer next to the photo of grandfather and me at my college graduation. He knew. Somehow, he knew this would happen and trusted me to handle it. That evening, I make a decision that would have seemed impossible 4 months ago. I draft a press release announcing Sterling Industries' new charitable foundation, focused on business education for underprivileged youth and support for families affected by white-collar crime. "We can't change the past," I tell Arthur as we review the announcement, "but we can make sure the future is better." Arthur smiles, the same proud expression I remember from when I was 8 years old and won the school science fair. "Your grandfather would be very proud." As I leave the office that night, walking through the lobby where my parents were escorted out by security just weeks ago, I realize something important. I'm not the same person who was arrested in this building 4 months ago. That woman was naive enough to believe family loyalty was automatic, that blood relationships guaranteed love and support. The woman walking out of this building tonight understands that family is something you earn, not something you're born into, and she's ready to build something better than what came before. 6 months after my parents' sentencing, Sterling Industries is thriving in ways that even I didn't expect. We've launched 2 new product lines, expanded into international markets, and our employee satisfaction ratings are at an all-time high. But the real surprise comes on a Monday morning when Arthur walks into my office with a smile that tells me something big is about to happen. "Violet, you need to see this," he says, placing a legal document on my desk. "It's a federal asset forfeiture notice from your parents' criminal case." I scan the document, not quite believing what I'm reading. The government is seizing my parents' remaining assets. Their house, cars, investment accounts, even Mom's jewelry collection. Everything they tried so hard to protect by destroying me. "There's more," Arthur continues, clearly enjoying this moment. "Under the restitution agreement, all seized assets go to Sterling Industries to compensate for the financial damage they caused. The total recovery amount is," he pauses dramatically, $4.7 million. I almost laugh. My parents sacrificed everything, their freedom, their family, their reputation, to steal money from the company. In the end, they didn't just return every penny they stole, they handed over everything they owned as well. "Arthur," I say, "does this mean what I think it means? Your parents are essentially penniless. When they get out of prison in 5 years, they'll have nothing except the clothes on their backs and whatever minimum wage jobs they can find. The irony is so perfect it feels almost fictional. They tried to leave me with nothing, and instead they left themselves with nothing while I inherited an empire." That afternoon, I get an unexpected visitor. Michelle, my cousin who texted me during my parents' arrest, asks to meet for coffee. We haven't spoken in years. Family gatherings were always awkward after grandfather made it clear I was his favorite. But she looks genuinely nervous as she sits across from me in the cafe near Sterling Industries. "I need to tell you something," she says, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "About your parents. About what really happened. Michelle, if this is about feeling guilty for not supporting me during the arrest, don't. I understand family dynamics are complicated. It's not that." She takes a deep breath. "I knew. About their plan." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean you knew?" 6 months before your arrest, your dad approached my father about concerns regarding your fitness to run Sterling Industries. He wanted Uncle Robert's support for a family intervention to contest the will. I set down my coffee cup carefully, my hands suddenly unsteady. "Go on." "When Uncle Robert refused, he said grandfather's decision should be respected. Your parents got desperate. They started talking about other options. I overheard a phone conversation between your mom and mine where she mentioned something about making you unavailable for corporate responsibilities. The betrayal feels fresh all over again. And you didn't think to warn me?" Michelle's eyes fill with tears. "I thought they were just venting. I never imagined they'd actually frame you for crimes. I thought maybe they'd try to prove you were incompetent or something, not this." She reaches across the table, but I pull my hands back. "Violet, I'm so sorry. I've been carrying this guilt for months. When I saw what they did to you, how they destroyed their own daughter, why are you telling me now? Because they tried to contact me from prison. They want me to help them appeal their sentences, claim they were coerced into pleading guilty." Michelle's voice hardens. "They still think they're the victims in this story." I sit back in my chair, processing this new layer of betrayal. It wasn't just my parents who failed me. It was an entire family network that knew something was wrong and chose silence over courage. "Michelle," I say finally, "I appreciate you telling me, but I need you to understand something. I don't need your guilt or your apologies. I needed your courage 6 months ago, and it wasn't there." She nods, tears streaming down her face now. I know I failed you. The question is, what are you going to do differently going forward?" That evening, I call an emergency board meeting. The asset forfeiture money gives us an unprecedented opportunity for expansion, but I want to do something more meaningful than just increasing profits. I want to establish the Sterling Ethics Institute, I tell the board, a research foundation focused on corporate governance, family business dynamics, and ethical leadership. We'll use the recovered funds to create something positive from this nightmare. Margaret Chen leans forward. "That's a beautiful way to honor your grandfather's memory while acknowledging what happened." David Morrison agrees. "It sends a message about what Sterling Industries stands for under your leadership." After the meeting, Arthur stays behind. "Your parents will hate this, you know, using their stolen money to create something that celebrates the values they betrayed." "I'm counting on it," I tell him. "They tried to destroy everything grandfather built. Instead, they've given me the resources to make it stronger." But as I sit in my office late that night, looking at family photos I haven't been able to throw away, I wonder, will there ever be a point where this stops hurting? Where the victory feels complete and the sadness finally fades? The answer, I suspect, is more complicated than I want to admit. The letter arrives on a Tuesday, exactly 18 months after my parents were sentenced. Prison correspondence has a distinctive look. Cheap paper, regulation envelopes, that institutional feel that screams, someone's life went very wrong. It's from Mom. I almost throw it away unopened, but something stops me. Maybe curiosity, maybe the hope that after a year and a half in federal prison, she's finally developed some self-awareness. I open it at my desk, scanning the carefully written lines. Violet, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I had to try. Prison gives you time to think, and I've been thinking about everything that went wrong between us. I want you to know that I understand now what we did to you was unforgivable. We let our fear and pride turn us into people we never thought we'd become. You deserved parents who supported your success, not parents who tried to destroy it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve that. But I needed you to know that I see clearly now what we lost when we chose money over family. We lost you, the best thing we ever created. I love you, sweetheart. I always have, even when I was too broken to show it properly. Mom, I read it twice, waiting for the anger to come. Instead, I feel something more complicated, a mixture of sadness, relief, and the strange emptiness that comes when someone finally says what you've been waiting to hear. But it's too late to matter. Arthur finds me still holding the letter 20 minutes later. Bad news? He asks, noticing my expression. Complicated news, I tell him, passing the letter over. What do you make of this? He reads it carefully, his lawyer's mind automatically analyzing every word. It seems genuine. Prison has a way of clarifying priorities for people. The question is, what do I do with it? That depends. Do you want closure, or do you want to maintain your boundaries? It's a good question. For the past 18 months, I've been building a new version of myself. Stronger, more independent, less willing to accept emotional manipulation. Engaging with my parents, even in letter form, feels like a step backward. But there's another consideration. I'm not the same person who was arrested 2 years ago. I've proven I can stand up to betrayal, build something meaningful from destruction, and protect myself from people who wish me harm. Maybe I'm strong enough now to engage with my parents without losing myself. That evening, I draft a response. Mom, I received your letter. I appreciate your honesty about what you did and why you did it. You're right that what you and Dad did was unforgivable. You didn't just betray me. You tried to destroy my life to steal something that wasn't yours. The fact that you understand this now doesn't undo the damage. However, I've learned something important over the past 2 years. Holding on to anger hurts me more than it hurts you. I'm not writing to forgive you or to rebuild our relationship. I'm writing to tell you that I've moved beyond what you did to me. Sterling Industries is thriving. The employees you and Dad treated as expendable resources are now partners in building something meaningful. The company grandfather wanted me to lead is becoming everything he dreamed it could be. I don't hate you anymore. I don't love you either, at least not in the way daughters typically love their mothers. What I feel is something more like sadness for what could have been, and relief for what actually is. Take care of yourself in there. When you get out, I hope you build a life you can be proud of. Violet. I seal the letter and set it aside to mail tomorrow. It feels like the end of something. Not forgiveness exactly, but a kind of release. I'm no longer the daughter desperately seeking parental approval. I'm not even the woman who was arrested and betrayed. I'm someone new entirely. 3 days later, Arthur brings news that completes the transformation. The Sterling Ethics Institute has received its first major external grant, he tells me. $2.8 million from the Hartford Foundation for Corporate Governance Research. Richard Hartford's foundation? The same. Apparently, your approach to handling the family crisis impressed him. He wants to fund research into preventing similar situations at other family businesses. I smile, thinking about how grandfather would react to this news. His company, nearly destroyed by family betrayal, has become a model for ethical leadership. His granddaughter, almost ruined by the people who should have protected her, is now teaching other families how to avoid our mistakes. Arthur, I say, I think we've officially turned this nightmare into something worthwhile. Your grandfather always said that true leaders aren't defined by the challenges they avoid, but by what they build from the challenges they face. That night, I mail the letter to my mother and file away the asset forfeiture documents. The past is settled. The future is mine to create. And for the first time in 2 years, I feel completely, genuinely at peace. 2 years, 3 months, and 14 days after my arrest. I stand at the podium in Sterling Industries' main conference room, facing an audience of business leaders, journalists, and employees. Today marks the official launch of the Sterling Ethics Institute, but more importantly, it marks the completion of my journey from victim to victor. The conference room has been transformed. Where my father once held conservative board meetings focused on maintaining the status quo, we're now hosting discussions about innovation, ethics, and the future of family business leadership. The irony would be funny if it weren't so poetic. Good morning, I begin, looking out at faces that include Margaret Chen, David Morrison, Arthur, and even Richard Hartford, who flew in specifically for this event. 2 years ago, I learned that the people closest to you can become the people most willing to destroy you. Today, I'm here to talk about what we build from that destruction. I clicked to the first slide of my presentation, a photo of grandfather at the groundbreaking ceremony for Sterling Industries' original building in 1962. Young, determined, building something from nothing. My grandfather founded this company on the belief that business should serve a higher purpose than just generating profit. He believed that how we treat people, employees, customers, even competitors, defines who we are more than how much money we make. The next slide shows Sterling Industries' financial performance over the past 2 years. Revenue up 47%, employee satisfaction at 94%, 3 new patents, expansion into 5 international markets. Under ethical leadership, we haven't just survived the crisis that nearly destroyed us. We've thrived beyond anything we thought possible. I advance to the next slide, and this is where the story gets personal. It's a photo of the federal courthouse where I was arrested, juxtaposed with a photo of the same courthouse where my parents were sentenced. The Sterling Ethics Institute exists because my own family taught me that good intentions aren't enough. Oversight isn't enough. We need systems, education, and accountability to prevent people from making choices that destroy both their businesses and their relationships. A reporter in the front row raises her hand. Ms. Sterling, how has this experience changed your approach to leadership? It's taught me that strength isn't about avoiding betrayal. It's about what you do after betrayal reveals who people really are. My parents showed me that blood relationships don't guarantee loyalty, but they also showed me that I'm stronger than I ever knew. After the formal presentation, Arthur approaches me as the crowd mingles around the refreshment table. How does it feel to be standing here today? Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, I tell him. Strange how that works. The worst thing that ever happened to me led to the best thing that ever happened to me. Your grandfather would be proud. I think he'd be surprised. He believed in me, but I don't think even he imagined I'd turn a family betrayal into a business empire. That evening, after the guests have gone home and the conference room has been cleaned, I sit in my office reviewing the day's coverage. The Wall Street Journal ran a feature about Sterling Industries' transformation. Forbes is planning a cover story about ethical leadership in family businesses. Harvard Business School wants to create a case study. My phone buzzes with a text from Michelle. Saw the conference coverage. You've built something amazing from something horrible. I'm proud of you. I text back. Thanks. How are you doing? Better. I've been volunteering with a nonprofit that helps families affected by white-collar crime, trying to make amends in my own way. It's the first time I've felt genuine warmth toward a family member since this whole nightmare began. People can change, grow, choose to be better than their worst moments. It's a lesson my parents never learned, but maybe it's not too late for the rest of us. As I pack up my briefcase to go home, I notice an envelope that wasn't there this morning. Inside is a note from Janet. Ms. Sterling, I wanted you to know that working here has become the best job I've ever had. You've given all of us something to be proud of. Thank you. I lock the note in my desk drawer next to grandfather's letter and the last correspondence from my parents. Physical reminders of where I came from and where I've gone. Walking out of the building tonight, I think about the woman who was arrested here 2 years ago. Scared, betrayed, unsure if she was strong enough to fight back. She had no idea she was about to discover a strength she didn't know she possessed. My parents tried to bury me alive. Instead, they planted me. And look what grew. If this story resonated with you, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories about overcoming family betrayal and building strength from destruction. Sometimes the people who try to destroy us end up giving us exactly what we need to become, who we were meant to be.